have you ever tried to like illustrate an example in real life, in real time, so that your friend can see how it's done, only for it to just horribly backfire on you? Well, I'm going to tell you about one that got way out of hand. In my early years as a wee little lad, because of my mom's job, I spent a lot of time exposed to the art and culture of Los Angeles and Hollywood, which is why no matter how weird or screwed up this place gets, it's always going to be home to me. LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art, the place where everyone goes to take their Instagram selfies with the lights in the background, they hosted a mixer every year for teenagers. It was an opportunity where we could get out and develop our social skills, meet new people, like not be on smartphones. One year, I forced my buddy to come along with me to this mixer. Okay, so my friend hosts a podcast, and he doesn't like to go by his real name. So I'm being dead serious. He goes by Obi-Wan. So we're going to be calling him Obi-Wan in this story. Here come my bad Star Wars jokes. Anyway, so I force him to go. And he's a really tall guy. He's got it going for him. But what he doesn't realize is that I have been on my 5-year mewing streak. I don't know if I want to keep that in the video. Okay, so this context matters because Obi-Wan and I had played volleyball together in high school. The big difference was that he was actually good, and of course his height lended to that, and I was always struggling to just get my hand over the net. So I had something to prove. I needed to show this guy that even if he was good on the volleyball court, I had Riz. Doesn't sound as good out loud. We got to the place and just sort of scoped out the area. They had a dance floor, like a non-alcoholic bar / lounge area, and some galleries that were open that people could explore, which is actually kind of sick in my opinion. Dude, and I was just so full of it the entire time. Every time we saw a girl that he vaguely found attractive, I was just go to him like, well, why don't you go talk to her? Why don't you go talk to her? Oh, you think she's cute? Why don't you go talk to her? I think at this point is where he'd had enough of my crap. And so the next thing he said is where things started to kind of take a turn. We were sitting at the lounge area. Obi-Wan looks at me and says, hello there. He says to me, well, if it's so easy, then why don't you do it? I was taken aback by that. Done for. I had no idea how I was going to financially recover from that state. But I think up until this point, I had faked my confidence so much that maybe, just maybe, I could actually do what he said. Without hesitation, I turned my head, and the first group walking past my chair, it was 2 girls and a guy. I look at them, or I look at one girl in the group, and I go, hey, you. Yeah, you want to dance? I don't know why I had an accent for that. The girl I had made eye contact with was understandably taken off guard, and her friends looked confused, maybe even a little disgusted. But then she smiled with this like bashful expression and said, sure. I was shocked. And then the realization set in that I actually had to get up and dance and like talk to this person now. I no longer knew or was worried about what was going on with my friend because I was just fighting for my life at this point. I wish I could say this was kind of like a cute little ending to the story, but this is just where things start to get unhinged. So her and I started dancing, and we actually had a good time. She's a cute little blonde with glasses, and in all seriousness, I think stuff like this is great, where people get an opportunity to step out of their comfort zone and meet others. Anyways, I digress. For the sake of this story, we'll call her Bella, because Twilight and shit. Trust me, this foreshadowing will matter to the story later. Bella and I danced for what felt like hours, and very quickly it went from late afternoon, evening, dusk to just nighttime. And her friends were hovering over us the entire time. It was like oracles from ancient Greece that were waiting to spell out some evil omen for the 2 of us. At one point, one of Bella's friends walks over to her and says something in her ear in kind of a scolding manner, and Bella just kind of shoos her away. Throughout this, her and I are obviously getting more comfortable in each other's presence, but I still felt kind of off about how her friends were reacting to what was going on. At this point, I have no idea what's going on with Obi-Wan. He's probably off fighting General Grievous or something. I feel really bad saying that. Bella and I got closer and closer, and eventually we kissed. And I knew we had reached the point of no return. Whatever mummy's curse we had started, it was going to happen now. Ladies and gentlemen, we had activated a canon event. Her friend walks over to me this time and very firmly says, "She has a boyfriend, you know." I will own up to the fact that it was not a good idea to continue engaging with someone who was potentially in a relationship. So we, continued hanging out that night, and we eventually made plans to go on a movie date. In hindsight, though, maybe this was the lesson I needed at that age. So the night comes to a close. Bella and I exchange numbers, and her friends get out of their ancient Athenian cosplays. Obi-Wan keeps the Separatists at bay for another episode. By the way, real quick, if you guys want to hear more details about these stories live or just ask questions, I go live on Twitch. Link will be in the description. Or if you're just a nerd and want to hang out. Again, everything has been mostly tame for the most part, but this is where things take a real twist, like where you find out a member of your party is actually the final boss you're going to have to go against in the next stage. To set the tone here, Bella and I went to see a Marvel movie. I, for the life of me, could not tell you which one we saw. I don't think we watched a millisecond of the movie before we started acting like teenagers. It was just normal kissing at first, but then she started to make her way over to my neck. It was normal until it wasn't. So what started off as like gentle kissing started to turn into like vacuum cleaner suction. I was like, okay, fine. Even that is cool. And then the teeth got introduced. This is where we started to enter new territory. At first, I was cool with that too. And then the biting kind of turned into chewing, but I took it like a champ. There was no way I was going to be scared off by a little bit of vampirism, except this continued for an extended period of time and the skin became bruised and weakened and the pain started to set in. You know when you go to the dentist and they've got like 16 metallic instruments in your mouth and they ask you if you're feeling okay and the only response you can give them is just a single teardrop rolling down side of your face? That's roughly where I was at in this situation. At some point during all this, I had a moment of clarity and realized that I maybe wasn't so into this gal as I might have thought I was initially. Everything else kind of felt like a blur. I don't know if we got through the movie, but I do remember saying that I needed to go to the restroom, and she walked with me over to the restroom, squeezing my hand like I was a balloon that was about to fly away. And then we would stop every 3 feet because she just wanted to start making out again. Admittedly, it is so nice when someone expresses this amount of affection for you, especially for me. I'll have to tell this story another time, but I never thought I'd even have a girlfriend in elementary school, middle school. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, but this was a big deal for me. And I think it also kind of helped me gauge how much PDA I was comfortable with, and we had gone far past that. Initially, we'd planned to go to a cafe or something right after the movies, but at this point, I started laying out the schematics for my escape. She waited outside the restroom while I went in, and I could see just like 2 bleeding marks on either side of my neck. And I was like, how did I get to this moment in time right now? I walked into the large stall, called my dad, and calmly said, "Please come and get me." About 10 seconds after hanging up, I hear Bella's voice inside the men's restroom. "Hey, are you okay?" And I peek around the corner, like that little hole in the stall that you can see, and there she is standing inside the doorway. And I shout back, "Yeah, I'll be out in a moment." The fear was in full effect at this point. I was desperately trying to muster up a story as to why I had to leave earlier than we initially planned. I think I said something along the lines of, my dad had to pick me up because of something school related. Oh my God, that would have been way worse if it was a weekend. In any regard, her and I began making our way to my extraction point. And once again, every 5 feet, I was stopped for a makeout session. Normally, this is not something I would shy away from, but in this particular instance, it was like, okay, this is too much. Fortunately, my dad got there fairly quick, and this next moment will stay with me until I go to my grave. I gave Bella a kiss goodbye, briskly walked over to the passenger side of my dad's car, and before he could finish his sentence of What happened to your neck? I quickly turned into Justin Long from Jeepers Creepers and went, go, 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 go. I felt horrible about everything that had happened. I had approached this girl because I was trying to prove something to my friend, really account for my own insecurity. The fact that I had kept flirting with her after she had allegedly had a boyfriend made me feel really ashamed of myself. I sent her a message the next day, thanking her for the time that we had spent and just straight up saying, I think we had done too much too quickly and we'd be better off just as friends. And she responded cordially to it, but you never really know what someone is experiencing on the other side of a text message. Look, when you're a kid, you make all kinds of dumb decisions. That's how you learn. The difference, however, between a fool and a wise man is not experience, but reflection. With that being said, would I be down to get bitten again?